ANA eLearning Academy is brought to you by CDN Graysheet, a trusted source of rare coin and currency valuations since 1963.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the ANA eLearning Academy. The ANA would like to thank our e-learning partner, Graysheet, for their support of the e-learning program. Today, we have Brad Seidel, who will be presenting Dr. Louis Feuchtwanger, or Feuchtwanger, and the numismatic legacy of his tokens. Pronunciation of the last name still up for debate, but however Brad will be pronouncing it, that's what we're going to go with today. Now, all attendees will be muted for this presentation. If you have any questions, you may put them in the chat or Q&A box, and I will read them to our presenter at the end of the presentation. I will now turn the floor over to Brad for his presentation. When you're ready, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I can't see any of you. I'm not sure why, but I hope you all can see me. Again, my name is Brad Seidel, and I'm going to pronounce it Feuchtwanger because that's how I learned it when I was a kid. So a little bit of background. My name is Brad Seidel. I started coin collecting in 1964 at the age of 7 when my babysitter's father hooked me. I come from a lower middle class background, and my allowance was 25 cents a week, plus whatever I could make returning bottles, mowing lawns, raking leaves, and shoveling driveways. So I became a pocket change warrior. And all adults were fair game for, can I see your change and can I keep this one when I found something good? There was also a monthly coin show not far from me, and I cultivated a couple of friendly dealers who always had a bargain box and usually charged me even less than the coins were marked. By the time I got to high school, my Lincoln penny collection was rocking, and I had a few treasured coins of great value, like Indian head pennies and V nickels, with a couple of silver dollars an aunt had given me. There was an older kid in the neighborhood who I occasionally traded with, and one day he asked me if I wanted to buy his Feuchtwanger, and I replied, "Oh, what?" Because I'd never heard of them. And his reply was, "They're in Red Book," and sure enough, they were. And since Red Book was the Bible, and this coin was old and worth more than the rest of my collection put together, I was all in. I was babysitting and cleaning houses by then, and it still took me months to save what he wanted, but I did it. I loved that coin with all my heart and soul. And then 2 years later, my house was broken into and most of my collection was stolen, including the Feuchtwanger. And I was so devastated, I stopped collecting coins and didn't start again for 30 years. But even then, whenever I saw a coin store, I went in and asked if they had one, and the answer was always no. And then the internet and eBay happened. And up until then, all I knew about Feuchtwangers was the few lines in Red Book. I knew there was a 1 cent and a mythical, magical 3-cent piece that no one I met had ever seen, and that's it. But when I got on eBay, I searched on Feuchtwanger, and they were actually offered for sale, and there was something about varieties and die pairs, and that's when I started doing research. I'm still researching and still learning. I have 2 goals. One is to write a book, and the second you'll need to wait for until the end of my talk. So his background, he was born in Fürth, Bavaria in 1805 and died in New York in June of 1876. In 1827, he received his MD from the University of Jena, and he emigrated to the United States in 1829. He eventually ended up in New York City, where he opened a pharmacy. However, he turned his attention to chemistry and developed an alloy of nickel, copper, and zinc known as German silver. He petitioned Congress to adopt his alloy for low denomination coins and subsequently minted and circulated his own 1 cent and 3-cent pieces. He also minted store cards to promote his own business and struck some tokens for other merchants. In addition to pharmacy and chemistry, he also developed interest in gems and minerals and fermented beverages, and he wrote several books on chemistry, gemology, and fermented liquors. So German silver. In 1829, he debuted his Feuchtwanger composition, which became known as German silver. It's a tarnishable alloy of copper, zinc, and nickel, and I highlighted that in red. So remember that alloy, because it's going to come back later, which resembles silver. He lobbied for the government to replace the cumbersome large cents of the time, supplying each member of Congress with a specimen of his handsome 1 cent piece. It featured an eagle grappling a snake on its obverse, He argued that his composition was more durable than copper coins, which tended to corrode and turn green. At 18.5 millimeters, they are the size of a dime and significantly smaller than 27.5 millimeter large cents. Just like today, during that time, the mint was concerned about the fact that manufacturing costs of producing a 1 cent coin exceeded its value. His composition was, in fact, less expensive than pure copper. While his proposal was turned down by Mint Director Robert M. Patterson in 1838, Feuchtwanger did obtain permission to mint them for circulation in the wake of the Panic of 1837. And that's a direct quote from the NGC website. And again, it's in red. We're going to come back to that later. With apologies to Pink Floyd, what is money? I took these definitions from Investopedia.com. Money is an economic unit that functions as a generally recognized medium of exchange for transactional purposes in an economy. Money provides the services of reducing transaction cost, namely the double coincidence of wants. Money originates in the form of a commodity having a physical property to be adopted by market participants as a medium of exchange. Money can be market determined, officially issued legal tender, or fiat monies. Money substitutes, fiduciary media, and electronic cryptocurrencies. And what is legal tender? Legal tender is anything recognized by law as a means to settle a public or private debt or meet a financial obligation, including tax payments, contracts, and legal fines or damages. The national currency is legal tender in practically every country. A creditor is legally obligated to accept legal tender towards repayment of a debt. Legal tender is established by a statute which specifies the thing to be used as legal tender and the institution that is authorized to produce and issue it to the public, such as the U.S. Treasury in the United States and the Royal Canadian Mint in Canada. And keep those in mind too, because we're going to come back to that. All right, so get to the coins already. Most collectors of U.S. coins are aware of the 1 cent. Fewer are aware of the 3 cent, and not many are aware of all the other strikes credited to him. Even now, I'm still adding to the list, but at the moment, I believe this to be complete. So the 1 cent, there are HT268, and there's 13 known die pairs. There are 14 listed on most of the major online resources, and the one that I'm leaving out is the 6A die pair, because nobody I've talked to has ever seen one, and none of us believe it exists. But if anybody has ever seen one or can produce evidence that it exists, I'd love to see it. So then he made 4 different 3 cent pieces: the 1837 3 cent coat of arms, HT262, the HT263 3 cent eagle, the 1837 proof-like 3 cent eagle, HT265A, and the 1864 3 cent eagle. He also made a 3 cent eagle trial strike, HT266. Then for other merchants, there was the 1837 R.E. Russell 12.5 cent, HT309, a no-date shilling, HT412, a no-date 50 cents, HT413, a no-date 1 cent, Judd C 1837-1, a no-date Broadway store card, a no-date Cortlandt Street store card, and those are both his. He moved at one point in his career, so he had store cards with 2 different addresses. And then 1837 R.L. Baker HT430, and I have question marks after that one because it's not readily attributable to him, but there's reasons to believe that they are. And then a no-date New York and Harlem Railroad Company HT298, and that's the same. There's no direct evidence to link them, but there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. So the 1 cent piece, the online resources list 14 different known die pairs, as I mentioned before, and I left the 6A out. However, none of the experts none of the experts I've talked to have seen evidence that a 6A exists. The 2 best online resources for 1 cent varieties are the ngc.com, and I have a bibliography at the end for people who want these websites, and Nova Numismatic, Feuchtwanger's page. They have 2 wildly different rarities associated with each die pair. I think they're both completely wrong. at least from my experience of trying to acquire them. And in my opinion, I assess relative rarity as follows. The 3E, 5G, 5H, 6G, and 6I are all easily found and therefore common. The 4E is somewhat harder to find, but in the last few years, they've become much easier to find, though still harder than the common pairs. And the others I rank in order of least to most hard to get. They're all hard to get. Would be the 1A, then the 2A, the 3B, 3G, and 3D. And to the best of my knowledge, there are only 2 known each of the 3C and 4F. So this is the 1 cent piece. I didn't put up pictures of all 13 varieties because they're all substantially look the same. And unless you're a serious collector of Feuchtwangers, the differences are so minor that to the naked eye, they pretty much appear identical. So the eagle with the snake motif on the front over the 1837 date, and on the back, 1 cent with a wreath around it and Feuchtwanger's composition. And remember this design because we're going to come back to that later. So now we move on to the 3 cent piece. This is HT 262, the New York State of Arms. I'm sorry, New York coat of arms. It's got the New York symbol on the obverse with the date, and on the back again we go to the denomination with the wreath and the Feuchtwanger's composition. And these are about the size of a large cent. This is the second most common of the 3 cents is the 1837 eagle with the similar design, the denomination with the wreath and the Feuchtwanger's composition. And this is the proof-like eagle. There's only a handful of these known. I was hoping to acquire one on the recent heritage auction, and it went way above my pay grade. So this is one of the more expensive ones in the Feuchtwanger inventory. But again, we have the eagle and the snake, and the 3 cent with the wreath and Feuchtwanger's composition, slightly different than the reverse of the other 3 cent piece. And then there's this one, which I only found out existed by going through heritage auctions and finding it listed as a Feuchtwanger trial strike. It is not in German silver. It was actually struck over a condor token, and you can still see the remains of the reverse of the condor token on the right. But it's the same eagle, and I guess a few changes were made prior to his striking the actual 3 cent pieces. And then there's the R.E. Russell, 12.5 cent. For many years, nobody could figure out who the heck R.E. Russell was because they assumed it was a New York merchant because he was located in New York. And one of my fellow Feuchtwanger enthusiasts just actually identified it. And you know what? I couldn't find the reference to where he posted it, but R.E. Russell was a merchant out in the Midwest somewhere. And these are really hard to find. I just picked one up from the heritage auction. And this is another one of the real super rare ones. This is the no date shilling. And other than the fact that it's made of German silver, there's nothing to link it to Feuchtwanger except we got the eagle over here. I don't know if you can see my pointer, but so we have the small eagle. But then if you look at the next coin, which is the no date 50 cent, notice the exact same motif on the obverse. On the back, though, we have the FS, which stands for Feuchtwanger silver. So that's why we think both of these are Feuchtwanger strikes. These are his store cards. This one I actually just acquired as well from the Heritage auction, about the size of a quarter. And they have all his store information. And notice he's making instruments, beer pumps, pillars, grates, spoons, forks, dinnerware sets. He doesn't mention coins on there, however. And I've never seen any of this kind of merchandise identified as bearing his mark. So whether he actually made those things, I don't know, but it's a nice looking coin. And this is the one from his other address with the Cortlandt Street address, and I do not have this one. I should have mentioned that all these pictures are pictures I downloaded off the internet. There were so many really good pictures compared to the blurry photography I was able to take of my own coins. So none of these are mine, but I do have most of them. This one is another question mark. It's German silver, and it obviously has his 1 cent with the wreath motif on both sides. The obverse is slightly different from the reverse, and it's believed to have been struck during the hard times. And since it's the same size and same metal as his, it's generally attributed to Feuchtwanger as well. And then the last two coins I was just made aware of recently. They are Feuchtwanger metals, so German silver, made for local or for merchants during the hard times. And I have yet to do any research into this, but the person who told me about these said that they were struck by the same manufacturer that struck Feuchtwanger's tokens, or the alloys are identical. So he believes that they were his tokens. And this is the other one, the New York and Harlem Railroad, HT 298, also struck in German silver, but doesn't bear any of the usual markers of a Feuchtwanger strike, other than the font. The fonts are the same across all of these coins on the writing. So that is one possible piece of evidence that they were his. So that's the full inventory of Feuchtwanger strikes that I'm aware of. And so why are Feuchtwangers so important? Why are these one of the few non-government strikes that Red Book lists, where there's so many thousands of tokens out there? So first, the nickel alloy. To the best of my knowledge, Feuchtwanger strikes are the first use of nickel alloy for minting coins. The small cent size, up until 1856-57, 1 cent pieces were big, the large cent. Historically, coins were worth what the metal in them was worth. But by 1856, the price of copper had risen to the point that there was more than 1 cent worth of copper and a penny. And so the time had come to reduce the size. But that wasn't until 20 years after Feuchtwanger struck his 1837 cents. And the eagle motif. Prior to 1856, the eagle had only been used on early mint silver coins, and never on copper coins. All right, so getting to the point here. This is an 1856 Flying Eagle. Note the alloy is copper nickel and the size is 19 millimeters. And then here you have the Feuchtwanger with the eagle in the 1837 and the 1 cent with the wreath. And we're going to go back and forth a few times. And as you can see, the coins are, while not identical, have the same basic alloy, almost the identical size, the eagle motif on the front with the date underneath, and the 1 cent with the wreath. Oops. Hang on. So, in my opinion, the mint ripped Feuchtwanger off. If you compare the Feuchtwanger 1 cent to the 20 years later mint set, similar alloys, first US use of nickel, almost identical size, same use of obverse device, very similar reverses. So I mentioned that I had 2 goals. Going back to that page where I had the definitions of money and legal tender, our Feuchtwanger's 1 and 3 cent pieces money. Clearly, they were circulated and accepted as money by merchants and their customers. So yes, are they legal tender? Broken down to basics, to be legal tender in the United States, Congress must authorize the production and then monetize it. If NGC is correct, Congress did authorize Dr. Feuchtwanger to produce and circulate his 1 and 3 cent pieces, but never monetize them. So no, they are not legal tender, at least not yet. My goal is to do more research and document all of this, then petition Congress to monetize them, which would make them legal tender and make the Feuchtwanger's cent the first small cent and a recognized United States government struck coin. And that's the end of my presentation. This is my bibliography. I'll go back and forth here. I think it's 3 pages worth of stuff. But there's some really good informational pages. There's a link to all the pictures that I used, which were mostly heritage or auction site photos, and they have a little bit more information on each of the more rare strikes. I had a little difficulty formatting, so some of these, in order to get them to do what I wanted to do, I had to cut the HTTPS on like number 12 here. So if you want to find that link, you can just put the HTTP back on there, or just Google the title. Is in Feuchtwanger 3 cent pieces, a good look at this rarity, and it should bring the page up. So that's all, folks. I'm happy to take questions now. If anybody has information on Feuchtwangers that I may not have seen, please contact me. Of particular interest is who his engraver was, who struck the coins, and I'm also seeking something that verifies that Congress did authorize him to mint and circulate the 1 and 3 cent pieces. I've seen the congressional record page where he did submit to Congress and asked them to adopt his metal, German silver, for the use of striking small denomination coins, but I have yet to find any documentation on their response authorizing him to strike and circulate them. So if anybody has any information on where I could find that information, please forward it to me. Excuse me. I do have a Facebook group for Feuchtwanger tokens. And if you, there's the URL is on here, or you can just go onto Facebook and put Feuchtwanger tokens in it. It should bring my group up, send me an ad, and I'll add you to the group. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me directly or has information, my store email is geeksrusaz@yahoo.com.
Nice. All right. Well, Brad, thank you very much for a very wonderful and educational presentation. So
my pleasure.
We had a couple questions come in. One person asks, of course, if there is well, perhaps a tie between the eagle on these tokens or coins rather, and the eagle of Mexico. The question that was asked was Mr. F of Mexican heritage, since the eagle with the snake is their symbol?
Not to my knowledge. I'm not quite sure. I know he was from Germany originally, so unless he had an ancestor that somehow got from Mexico to Germany, I sincerely doubt it. I've never seen anything that would indicate that he is, but he may have come across the coins and liked the design and borrowed it. There's some evidence that the Feuchtwanger eagle did not originate with him, that similar devices were used prior. So it may just be a coincidence.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I know of course, the on Mexican coins, it's part of an old Aztec legend.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm not sure if yeah, there was any tie there. But
Not to my
interesting
knowledge.
question. So another question came in, said, do we happen to know why Patterson preferred the copper large cent?
I do not. However, my experience with the tokens, if you collect them, you'll see an awful lot of them with cracked planchets. So what I've understood is, first of all, it was very difficult to make the alloy consistently. The samples that he sent to Congress assayed with different percentages of copper, nickel, and zinc. And because he was unable to produce a standard reproducible alloy mix, that was one of the reasons. And the other reason may have been because the metal is brittle. It does crack easily.
Yeah, nickel is a very, very tough metal to work. That's for sure. So I don't think we had any other questions come through, Brad. But again, I definitely want to thank you for a great presentation. I hope everyone enjoyed it and learned at least something today. Again, we want to thank Graysheet for their partnership with the ANA eLearning Academy. We hope you'll join us for our future webinars. Please check the ANA website, money.org, for more information under the events and webinars heading. Tomorrow will be the last of our Money Talks presentations, or what were going to be the live Money Talks at our National Money Show in Phoenix that was unfortunately canceled. Tomorrow will be the last of those Money Talks. I will not be hosting because I will actually be the presenter for this one tomorrow. So at 10 o'clock, I'll be on the other side where Brad is today, doing that. And Logan Curtis will be back in this seat as our host. Again, thank you for joining us, Brad. Thanks again. Great presentation. Everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day, and please continue to enjoy our hobby.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care. Thanks again, Brad.